Buenas, and Hafaday. And good afternoon. This public hearing is conducted by the Committee on Education, Public Safety, and the Arts, and is hereby called to order at 2:10 Chamorro Standard Time. Notice of the hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets on October 30th, 2024, with the second notice provided on November 5th, 2024. Notice of the hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website and the Government of Guam Public Notices portal. This afternoon, the committee will hear testimony on the following bills related to the Department of Corrections. Bill number 278-37LS, an act to add a new subsection 90.16.2 to Article 1, Chapter 90, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated relative to complaints filed against corrections officers. And bill number 358-37COR, an act to add a new subsection 90.16.3 to Article 1, Chapter 90, Title 9, GCA relative to salary, recruitment, and retention studies for law enforcement officers employed by the Guam Department of Corrections. Both of those bills are ones that I introduced, and then we will close the public hearing with the hearing on bill number 368-37LS, which is an act to amend subsection N7 of Section 1, Chapter 5, Public Law 37125, relative to allocating funds to the maintenance and procurement of necessary equipment for the Department of Corrections Adult Correction Facility and the Hagatnya Detention Facility, introduced by Senator Dwayne Sinicolas. I'd like to now welcome my colleagues joining us today. Of course, Senator Dwayne Sinicolas and Senator Tello Taidagui, Sidos Masi, colleagues, for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the general rules of conduct. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and shall state their name for record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. The chairperson of the committee may order the removal from a hearing any member of a legislatura en Guahan who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 37th Guam Legislature standing rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in the removal from the hearing by the host. We'll now proceed with the hearing testimony on bill number 278-37LS, which is an act to add a new subsection 90.16.2 to Article 1, Chapter 90, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated relative to complaints filed against corrections officers, introduced by yours truly, Senator Chris Malfunction Barnett. The bill requires the reporting of complaints filed against officers of the Guam Department of Corrections. Now, the bill is substantively and substantially identical to subsection 77.133 of 10 GCA, which applies to uniformed police officers of the Guam Police Department. The bill is also identical to Bill 271, which I also introduced, and that bill applies to customs officers. So we just basically copied the language from that existing statute, which requires the reporting of complaints against GPD officers, and put corrections officers in there, only because I feel like what's good for the GPD is good for the gander. So if you file a complaint against a Guam Police Department officer, the way the law is written, they're supposed to have the complaint, the nature of the allegation, and then the disposition of the investigation, whether it was sustained or whatnot. There's no personal information about any of the officers because, of course, it's a personnel matter. And so what we're trying to do with the bill that I introduced for customs officers and this bill that I introduced for corrections officers is apply the same standard for all law enforcement in order to promote accountability and transparency, not just for the members of the public, but obviously for all of those fine men and women who wear the badge under the law enforcement family. And so with that, I eagerly look forward to your testimony in support of the bill. Sidos Masi, I want to recognize, of course, Director Fred Berdalio and Major Faye, yes. Lazama, yes, sorry. So many majors. So Sidos Masi, Director, if you'd like to start with your testimony.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Dwayne Sinicolas, Senator Tello Taidagui. My name is Fred Berdalio Jr. I'm the Director of Department of Corrections, and I'm going to provide this written testimony and then orally read it out for the record. Buenas and Hafide. I'm providing this testimony in reference to Bill 278-37LS, an act to add new Section 90.162 to Article 1, Chapter 90, Title IX Guam Code Annotated relative to complaints filed against corrections officers. We note that this legislation proposed provisions are similar, as you mentioned, Senator, to Section 77-133, reporting police officer violations, Chapter 77, Title 10 Guam Code Annotated, and Public Law 25-0463, relative to officers of the Guam Police Department. There are several issues in the proposed legislation, include but not limited, and these are just things to consider as you move forward with this proposed legislation. Credible information is not defined. The bill puts the onus on corrections officers to determine whether the complaints are credible, which is the task of internal affairs. The bill allows corrections officers to be charged with a misdemeanor and a $1,000 fine or both for not acting on complaints that lack credible information. With that definition that's not defined yet. If a complaint lacks credible information, corrections officers are still required to forward them to the director, and the director is still required to forward them to the AG and publish a public statement on them. These actions would undermine the investigations of set complaints if they are not completed before the 30 days time frame set by the bill for a public statement to be published. We also note that the use of the term commission within the proposed legislation, if this refers to the Police Review Commission, it is our understanding that the commission has been dormant or not as applicable to the administrative oversight of the Department of Corrections. And that's it from my testimony.
Any other testimony?
No.
Thank you, Sidus Masi, Major. Appreciate it. Director, thank you. Your concerns are duly noted, and we'll be sure to look at those when we work on the bill while it's in committee. If any of my colleagues had any questions, Senator San Nicolas?
Hi, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with you, Director Bordallo, and we must afford our law enforcement officers due process, and we have to make sure that whenever anything puts forth that, because even I was a law enforcement officer, and it's nice to know that when you're doing the right thing, that your department is there to maintain the level of the shield over that person, because sometimes those making the accusations, you know, they have to be credible first before anything. And I trust that, you know, the director and you know, is standing up for the right reasons. And I wouldn't want to put our officers, you know, who put their lives on the line day in and day out. And we need to make sure that, you know, that they're properly protected from, you know, false accusations and stuff like that. Because they really do put their lives on the line. I understand that very much, and it's our duty as you know, leaders to protect them as much as we can while we wait for proper information to materialize or come forth. So I also have concerns like that. I don't have any questions for you at the time, but I do support our men and women who are you know, who put on the badge and the uniform. And if I were to do something, it would be to protect them first. Thank you.
Sidus Masi, Senator San Nicolas. Senator Taitigui?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to my colleagues, and most especially good afternoon to DOC who's here. I was also hoping, you know, since a similar bill that was introduced would also bring the police department here also to testify. So I'm looking forward to their comments, you know, since it's already been utilized, what they have to say about this. I do have a question, though, on Director Bordallo, and it's on page 2 of the legislation where it says that the Director of Corrections shall, within 30 working days of the receipt of the information described in subsection A of this section, section prepare a statement open to the public, okay, indicating the preliminary disposition of the allegations. When they say that to open to the public, how are you going to disperse this information? Is it through your website? Is it going to be in the newspaper? What is the standard procedure for something like this?
Thank you for that, Senator. And that's why the discussion on this, because investigations are very sensitive information, especially if it's a combination of not only an administrative investigation that we're doing, but it's criminal in nature, and there's a parallel investigation might be being conducted by the feds who want to. I'll just say for now, under the record, there's a federal investigation going, and we're in a thing where we're being advised by the Guam Attorney General's office, because we still have this 90-day timeline, right? But we don't want to jeopardize a federal investigation that may be ongoing, right, against one of our corrections officers. So how we would be able to disclose to the members of the public sort of the receiving of a complaint administratively, it would have to be done in a way where we're not too specific in nature of what the allegations are, in terms of the employee's name. It can't be given for privacy purposes and protection of that, but most likely we would just indicate in general what the allegation would be. I've served 3 years in the internal affairs investigation, for the Guam Police Department, and been in the spot also as chief of police, and now even as director, to look at some of the things that can be detrimental, especially when it hits the Civil Service Commission, and some of these kind of
I think,
communications.
yeah, I think because this legislation, if it goes through like that, I'm kind of concerned because it requires you to do it.
Yes.
So we're going to have to indicate something in here to follow a law that protects, until the investigation is completed, because you don't want to jeopardize the investigation. So I think if we maintain the same language, I could be wrong, we can ask legal to look at it and ask your legal to look at it. This actually tells you have to do it.
Yeah,
There's nothing in here.
And Senator, if I may add, I'm in the commission of the Legal Review Commission, Criminal Justice Review at the courts. So some of our sections and some of this new legislation that may be enacted or that's being proposed could be part of the discourse and discussion. And in the Criminal Justice Review Commission at the courts, I listen to how some of like Judge Kwan, who chairs that, some of their concerns when they look at some of these kind of mandates that would be imposed upon the Department of Corrections.
Right. And I think there is some guideline. There's probably something in the Guam Code annotated protecting that information. It's unfortunate sometimes because, you get some information and someone make an allegation, or you just go on social media and say this person did this, but on Guam, the perception, I even asked a UOG class when I went to Ron McNitch's class and asked them, how many people here feel the perception on Guam is you're guilty until proven innocent? And they all raised their hand. That was so discouraging to see. And it's because of the social media, just influencing. It's like our kids nowadays are not thinking for themselves. They're just going online and looking at that, and it's, telling them how to think. So it's very unfortunate that going on, and I don't want to put anybody in jeopardy that should not be, and just because of rumors, and then it's very sad. What happens if it's the director of Department of Correction? Where does the individual go to, because sometimes it's whistleblowing, there's some protections. People don't want to get involved or their name's out there, but they see it and they're willing to testify as long as their names are left out.
I would say in response, Senator, you know me, I've served in 2 different administrations.
Yes, I know you well.
And any allegation against an appointed official, it serves at the pleasure of the governor. Right. The governor would most likely appoint or assign, could be the chief of staff, someone who would conduct the administrative investigation and then give her the facts, and it'll be at the disposition of the governor of Guam.
Yeah, because if there is a complaint against a director or somebody of a higher position, that information can get lost, and that's unfortunate. So other than that, that's the only thing I have here, and maybe you can look at it, have your legal look at it so that you're not obligated to put out information that is actually going to hurt a case. So.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Sidos Masi, Senator Taitigui, and Senator Siniclis for your comments. Again, the intent of the bill is not to infringe upon the good reputation of law enforcement officers, but to provide more transparency and accountability as my office has been in receipt of numerous complaints from people who file complaints, not necessarily against DOC officers, but generally speaking, and then the complaint goes on a desk somewhere under 5 feet of paperwork and then disappears down a bureaucratic black hole, and they never hear anything about the complaint again. Also this language was copied, pasted from the statute. So I think some of the concerns may or may not be valid, and we're willing to go into the committee and address the things that you brought up, and maybe tweak the bill a little bit more to apply specifically to the Department of Corrections. But again, the intent, as you know, is not to malign the reputation of the fine men and women in law enforcement. In fact, the more transparency and accountability that we have relative to complaints received against officers, whether they be police officers or corrections officers, is it really protects the ones who wear the uniform who do a good job. Because what casts doubt and aspersions on the character of law enforcement is when we don't conduct the business of holding them accountable with a lot of transparency. So thank you very much, Director, for your testimony on the bill. And if there's no further comment, we'll consider Bill 278 duly heard. So, si Dios masi. We'll now move on to the next bill, which is another bill that I introduced here. And this is Bill 358-37 COR, which is an act to add a new subsection 163 to Article 1, Chapter 90, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to salary, recruitment, and retention studies for law enforcement officers employed by the Guam Department of Corrections. And this bill was introduced at the request of plenty corrections officers. As you know, we did a lot of good work in this term to address the recruitment and retention challenges that are facing the Guam Police Department as the quote-unquote premier law enforcement agency. And just for the record, I know that I've said GPD's the premier, but in my mind, it's GPD and DOC that really do a lion's share of the lifting when it comes to keeping our community safe. You know, GPD's out there pounding the pavement. You guys are in there, watching the inmates and the detainees under really deplorable and unsafe conditions. And so when the administration secured the 25% retention pay for the Guam Police Department, I heard from my DOC family, what about us, Senator? And so when and for me, the 25% retention pay was a piece of the puzzle that we needed to put together to address the retention and recruitment issues with GPD, because frankly, no one wanted to be a police officer anymore. And what that has led to is an unsafe number of officers available to protect the public and to be out on the streets. And so, in talking with the chief and GPD, the thing that we wanted to do was make it attractive to be a Guam Police Department officer. And so with the triennial retention bonus and the 25% retention pay, you know what I'm hearing? Even some of my older uncles are like, Lana, boy, I want to come out of retirement and go apply at GPD because we're going to get a bonus, So for me, it's about making it attractive so we can entice more police officers to join the police department, and which in turn leads to more police officers on the street, which I think is the simplest and most effective way to address the crime that has run rampant on our island because of the crystal meth epidemic and the looming fentanyl crisis. Now, that being said, we've also heard for the duration of this term a lot of challenges, issues, hazards, and compromising of safe working conditions for our Department of Corrections officers. As I toured the Mangilao facility and saw firsthand some of the conditions that the DOC family works under, and we're talking about one officer, as it's been publicized, watching as many as 80 inmates and detainees. And we talked about the severe shortage of police officers. I think if there's anywhere in the government of Guam where we might have a shortage more severe than GPD, it's at the Department of Corrections. And unfortunately, during the budget process, I had tried to introduce an amendment. So the process, just for the viewing public, is contrary to popular belief, if we're going to give a increase in pay to a certain section or class of employees, in this case, corrections officers, can't just give it now. Department of Administration has to come in and they have to study it and they have to say, okay, when we compare the corrections officers' pay with the other pay, and this is the issue, and this is why we don't have enough corrections officers, they have to study it. And, I was joking with DOA Director Byrne. He said, Lanny, you kind of just implement it, and he said, no, Tesinia. So we had to introduce a bill or any type of legislation that says, DOA, can you please study the DOC pay? And I'm very confident that when they study the pay, they are going to find out that you guys are in need of some type of incentive to address not just the recruitment, but the retention as well. And so I'm following the process by introducing this bill, which again requires that DOA conduct a salary recruitment and retention study for corrections officers, not just this year, but every 3 years. And by keeping a tab on the compensation for the corrections officers, I think we can adequately address many of the challenges that we face at DOC and as well as the Hagatna detention facility. So with that being said, that's the intent and the purpose behind the bill, and we now open it up for testimony. And we'll go ahead and start with Director Berdallo.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas, Senator Tello Tariguin. Buenos and Hafadin. I'm providing this testimony in reference to Bill number 35837, an act to add a new section 90.16.3 to Article 1, Chapter 90, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to salary recruitment and retention studies for law enforcement officers employed by the Guam Police Department, by the Guam Department of Corrections. Pursuant to Chapter 4 and 6 of Title 4 Guam Code Annotated, the Department of Administration already has the authority to reveal compensation structures, administrative policies for employment compensation within Government of Guam, to adopt and administer a unified pay schedule based on Hay methodology and to reassign pay grades as necessary. DOA has done this over the last few years by updating the pay scales for law enforcement, teachers, nurses, attorneys, and the general pay scale. However, the legislature can provide funding when these plans are approved. And this is my written testimony to be proposed for this legislation. But I would just want to add in, even from my personal experience, my area of focus in my studies have always been in human relations, human resource management. And the biggest assets in any organization is your employees, and they must be paid fairly, equitable to the type of responsible positions that they hold. Department of Corrections employees always deserve to be paid, and whenever there's an opportunity or whenever there's a challenge, as is pointed out in the legislation of Department of Corrections employees leaving the Department of Corrections for other areas, that's a loss to the Government of Guam. That's a loss to our agency. I've been, for the record, I've been asked by members of the University of Guam faculty. There's at Public Administration to do a study on the Department of Corrections, a retention study, and we readily accept that too when instructor at the University of Guam wants to do a retention study, similar to like they did over at UOG, a study at the Guam Police Department. I have not personally talked with Director Burns to see the impact of this legislation, but I have talked to the Deputy Director who said they're involved in a retention study of Guam Customs and Quarantine. So there are sort of like in action of doing that. And what I'm saying too is that should this bill be enacted into law, we will be ready to look at what the findings of that study shows, because we certainly want to look at the results of these research and look at where would we to ensure that we can retain our employees. Is it a pay issue, or would it be something within our environment in terms of how we invest in our employees, in terms of the training opportunities they have, because there are in terms of what we can do when they face challenges personally at home, because there are some women corrections officers too that have to balance their home life, right, with some stuff that they have with their work life. And that's the human relations and human resource aspect of my leadership here, to keep them sort of like feeling that they're valued, employees, and that keeps them staying with us longer. And that's why I would just even boast that Major Lazama's putting off on her retirement to stick around with me all the way to 2026 and all the other leadership, because they know we treat that we're like a family here. We may have some disagreements, but we know we're out for their best interests, especially when it comes down to their pay and their working conditions and what they're doing at their Department of Corrections. Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Josmasi, Director. 368. Major Lazama?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, honorable senators. Thank you so much for allowing to hear our concerns and also to support your bill. On this bill number 358-37, I am in support of this bill, but also hoping that you would also add in, not just to study it, but to take a look at the Competitive Wage Act of 2014, which says it's supposed to be done every 2-3 years, supposedly. Also, on top of that, also we've discussed this on our previous hearing regarding bonus pay that's given to the other, I believe GPD has a bonus pay for incentive or retention to help with the retention. The bonus, of course, especially at this time, that is needed because of the working conditions that we are just there. All of the officers are feeling all the environment itself. The workload has increased to, we're already taking care of 950 some prisoners. Like you said, one officer watching 80 prisoners. You know how that is, just watching one person, caregiving, for example. That's not easy. On top of that, we do have additional responsibilities, such as the Guam behavioral health clients. So that also is an extra burden on us because we take care and we handle those that are very disruptive and belligerent, hard to control. Medication doesn't help sometimes for them to calm down. They're still hard to control where they have to call the special ops team to try and contain the situation because they're just going, how you say it, it's very hard to control them. The ones that are under Guam Behavioral at Post 7, the Post 7 Annex and the women's facility. And just to inform you, the population's still at 950. It hasn't decreased, and so here we are. And so that bonus would really help, especially the frontliners, that are dealing and engaging with them on a daily basis. I'm not saying we're perfect. Everybody there is not perfect, but just the conditions, you are aware, you've seen it. Every other leaders came there to take a look at it as well. But what can we do? We're doing our best, right? I mean, what else can we do? But if there's anyone that has solutions, if they want to bring it up, then by all means, we're here. We have our ears, our doors are open. If you have solutions, then bring it up, bring it to the table. I mean, we're a community, so why not help each other, right? So, my boss here always guides me. If I'm doing something wrong, he corrects me, so I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but he does know if it's within our guidelines or within the law, then yes. My intentions are always good, but I'm also asking you if you have better solutions to our current problem, then by all means, bring it up. Bring it up to my boss, bring it up to us, and we can work together as a community to make it better for our Department of Corrections. Just remember, our building is over 50 years old, and we've been holding the fort that long, and we're just like, okay, we're gonna just be in this environment and this working conditions, it's fine. You know, we're getting paid. We have to get paid. We need our check, you know, but we'll do our best. And so here we are again, and I really appreciate that you're having this hearing and this bill to support us with our current problems, our issues and concerns, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Sidus Masi, Major Lozama.
Good morning. Congratulations, by the way, and it was great. Anyway, good afternoon, half a day. My name is Teresa Tayama. I'm the Correction Social Worker Administrator at the Department of Corrections. I am in full support of the bill to which is being heard today, and I would like to request a submission of my testimony for your consideration. I'm going to get straight to the point. I am respectfully asking for a 25% differential authorization, an allowance to be added to the DOC to this initiative for the correction social worker salaries. The correction social workers have been repeatedly overlooked for pay differential at the Department of Corrections. I can only surmise that this is because of our classification as civilians in this paramilitary organization, which is typically misaligned as civilian administrative support, for example, clerks and secretaries that handle administrative duties. Corrections social workers are categorized under the professional and paraprofessional social services at the Department of Administration. We, along with the parole officers, are the only two category of positions which require a minimum bachelor's degree for job eligibility. I'm quick to assert that corrections social workers are as valuable to the mission and equally exposed to the same high risks as the correction officers within the facility who are given this 25% differential pay. We too are always in direct contact with the prisoners. Also, in comparisons, our roles are no less significant as the Child Protective Services social workers who are given a 25% differential pay in 2022 per Executive Order 2021-26. We also perform case management services and provide for the educational, vocational, spiritual work release and classification functions at the agency. Because of the very nature of working here at the prison, we too have difficulty in recruiting staff to come and work for us in our office. In our line of work, just as the correction officers and public health social workers, we strive to be a total embodiment of the social worker and the healer because the work that we do extends outside the prison community. We advocate and strive to be genuine, empathetic, respectful, encouraging, and supportive to our clients in and out of the prison. I have a small team of hardworking and dedicated professionals who also feel the need to feel supported and appreciated for their hard work and commitment to the Department of Corrections mission. I am also grateful for the work of our director, Fred Bordalio, in his quick movement and firm decisions to help fill the positions that we have for officers as well as for social workers at my agency. This, of course, is a continuous work in progress, and we're hoping that only with these positions will it help to maximize our capacity for our service delivery to our clients, which we all know are usually the most outcast and forgotten members of society. I hope that you find our work as the correction social workers worthy and justifiable for an equitable 25% differential pay adjustment, as our brothers and sisters, the officers, and also those at BOSA, DYA, and the Public Defender's Office, who have already been given this equitable adjustment. Respectfully submitted. Thank you.
Sidus Masi. Is there anyone else who wishes to provide testimony on the bill? If not, I'll turn it over to my colleagues for any questions or concerns they might have, starting with Senator San Nicolas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in support of pay I'm also in support of the the measure after hearing you all. We got a room full of corrections employees and only 2 come up to speak. Many years ago, when I was in customs, I got up to speak too. And one of I think it was the chairman at the time, he says, I hope to see your name on the ballot. I'm going to just go ahead and tell you guys that. I hope to see your names on the ballot too. Thank you for standing up for your department. I appreciate that. I appreciate what Senator Chairman Barnett here is trying to do with the measure. If you had a choice between a bonus or a new facility, what would it be? Go ahead, Major.
First, I would choose a new facility, and only because, you know, if you have a happy working environment, everyone's going to be happy, you know. But if everything's broken and the environment is very hot because the AC units doesn't work, you have angry prisoners because it's hot inside, you know, that's the kind of stress you're dealing with. And, you know, everything is broken. It just makes everyone unhappy, especially if the environment is dirty, you know, if there's mold growing or what. Of course, people are going to be happy, but the minute you clean it, you paint it up, you water blast it, you clean it up, do some rearranging or whatever, the environment looks really, really nice to come in and work. And there you have happy workers. But if you're going in, it doesn't matter what building or government agency. You walk in and things don't work, or it's dirty, or of course they're going to be sad and depressed because the environment is just they're already depressed that they're in jail, and then worse, the place looks depressing. Yeah. So if we get the money, I would choose the answer to your question is I'd rather choose a new facility with everything working so that the workers are happy, and then people will want to stay because the working environment is clean and it's safe and it's a happy place to go to. It's not bad enough it's already a dangerous place, you know. We know it's dangerous, we know it's stressful, but to work in an environment that's clean and everything's working and AC units are working, your workers are going to be happy. You know what I mean? Ask yourself that question too. If you were working in a very hot office and, you know, are you going to expect them to be happy, or you're gonna hear them sometimes getting angry? Like it's not, they don't want to be angry, but sometimes they're angry because of the working condition. It's affecting their mind, it's affecting their body, they're irritated, it's causing them to be angry, you know, but...
Yeah, I understand that very much. You know,
you know what I mean,
I think about it all the time, you know, when, what makes everybody so angry out in the streets, you know, and I think about it and it's like, sometimes it's just the weather. The weather makes us so angry, but how deplorable is the conditions that you're working in?
Well, my place, I make sure I take care of it. My working space better be clean and it better be cool. That's how I am, because if I don't, it affects my health. You know, the older we get, we have medical conditions. We're not like in our 20s where we may be sick, but we don't feel it, you know, but now we have to take multivitamins or make sure we get our blood pressure pills, or, you know, we're feeling all our body ailments because of our age. But when you're young, you don't really feel it, I believe, but...
Yes, thank you for that. You know, being very frank, I've always wanted to ask and be very, you know, very real about the whole situation, you know.
Yes.
I just want to be real about the whole situation.
But it'll be better if we do have both, the bonus and the new facility. And why I say that is because Guam's cost of living is high.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. So that's another reason why they're leaving, is because back there in the mainland, everything's affordable.
Yes.
You know, compared to here, everything went up to include the rent.
How often do you lose, excuse me, ma'am, how often do you lose workers to the feds? Like you recruit them,
The feds.
you pretty them up, you doll them up, you give them all the training, and then guess what? The feds come in and swoop them away.
Yes, sir.
Is that something that you guys are experiencing as well?
Yes, we do. We did experience that this year because some of them went active military, and then some of them were called in because their pay is higher than DOC, so.
Mr. Director?
If I can add, Senator Dwayne, that in December of last year, 2023, I believe we were close to that thing, we had a new cycle that graduated about 32, and that brought us up to about 183 some corrections officers. Now we're at 173. So within 1 year from 2023, now we're in 2024, about 10 individuals are not with the department, are not in our staffing anymore, corrections officers. Some, of course, resigned under adverse condition, you know, under a federal investigation. Others relocated or had other jobs and resigned, and some retired, you know, so 10. So if I was appointed 4 years ago, that would have been 40 in 4 years, you would think. Anything higher than that, up to 60 in 4 years, is an indication something's going on, and it may not be the pay or anything. And I always remind that of our supervisors and leadership, that if we're losing about 40 in 4 years or 10 per each year, it might not be too much, but still, we don't want, of course, 10 leaving every year. Can we reduce that to maybe 5 leaving keep them on board? And that's why even with the recruitment, there's even some talk about, and I've emphasized this with Major Uggan. He's not here today, he's a week on leave, but emphasizing payback, you know, or some, you know, when we recruit them, they sign something that says they can't leave in 2 years or 3 years. I think the Guam Police Department is doing that.
Thank you, sir. Just real quick, just maybe off the top of your head, are there any plans to build a new facility, and maybe how far off this reality may be?
With the new facility master plan, we have the bidders for the architecture design, and right now the price is at about $50 million for the scope of work done on sort of those 4 phases and stuff. That's discussion still ongoing to see whether, if there would be a change of the scope of work, could we dramatically drop that price from $15 million down?
So the ball is rolling to
It's
work
still-
on a new
it's still
facility. Very
ongoing
good,
with that,
very good,
yes.
sir. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I don't have much time here. Only got 2 more months. I'm going to encourage our good chairman here to rush this off, and I want to be able to vote for this. I fully support all you all and the sacrifices that you do for the island, and I want to thank you all for that. I have nothing further, and I have support. You have my support on the measure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator San Nicolas. I'd like to recognize my colleague, Senator Recanata. Thank you for joining us. Senator Tello-Taitigui, any questions for the panel?
Thank you. Yes, I do. You know, it's very alarming, 950 inmates right now. What is the ratio per officer now at the Department of Correction?
Senator, I believe with 900, we still have a population of 950.
Right.
The biggest challenge, of course, are those 500 some pretrial, because we have 200 down there in the Hagana detention, the other 300 up there at the Manila. So when we're talking about one officer, like what Major Lazama had indicated in the domes, one officer could be watching 80 individuals, and that's an open bay in those domes.
And when does it become very, very, well, what's the word? Dangerous for our officers? How many before it becomes very dangerous for them?
You know, for a place like that with the open domes, pre-trial, you don't want one officer there. You want at least 4 some officers there, right? And it's timing with this next bill that we're going to discuss on, because it involves what we're going to do with those domes and the construction of movement control in there with some security barriers there, so that although you may still have 70 or 80 in there, their movement are controlled into sectioned off.
And you still looking at providing video surveillance cameras like everywhere under the sky and?
That's part of what we want to do when we get on this next bill that I'm going to
Yeah,
testify on.
that helps with labor. But also, I encourage you to use any kind of AI technology too that will assist you in that. My concern here, Director Badalio, when does it become really unsafe for our correction officers? Where the point where the federal government comes in and does a receivership. And we know that once they come in for receivership, we're talking about a whole lot of money is going to go right to DOC right away, take care of any issues. Money is going to be pumped in there like crazy. The salaries are going to go up to meet the cost of what is needed. I've always wondered, there's certain areas in this government of Guam that we can't seem to fix, and we keep reverting money somewhere else instead of where it's really needed. I mean, why is DOC left behind? Like you said earlier, it's true. Fire always gets something, GPD always gets it first, and DOC is always left behind. And if it takes receivership to finally address the concerns over at DOC, then I'm all for it. That way the money's going to come there and we're going to be taken care of. And the buildings, the facilities, like you said, that's one of the reasons why, Major Lizama, many people leave, because they don't want to have that work environment. We go into receivership, that thing's going to be built in 6 months. We're going to have to call it pretty soon, if this does not get any better. And I don't see that our correction facilities, the inmates are going to go lower in population. I don't see that happening. You keep seeing it grow. That's why 950, wow, just last year, I think it was, right, Fred? It was down like 700 something or 800, but
it's the consultants for the master plan had predicted that by 2024 it would be about 915 or something, or 910.
But it's higher.
950, it's higher, right?
Yeah. So
I just want to say on the record too, and I'm awaiting. I have a meeting scheduled with the Office of the Attorney General, and Doug Moynihan had reached out and agreed to meet, and we are going to be discussing some of the strategies, especially with the situation of pretrial detention, which Guam has the highest, right? And some of the things, of course, that we're looking at is, aggressive community supervision as an option. But I don't want to get into that part of the topic, Senator, until I have a meeting with the Attorney General, and I've had a meeting with Chief Justice too, so that we're coordinating whatever discussions are going to be on the table about the rising population, increase of population pre-trial. I had indicated previously, I don't know whether I mentioned here in front of the legislature, that as a former military corrections, pre-trial individuals in the civilian, they're in jails. They're not at a prison where rehabilitation is supposed to be taking place and adjudicated already. So when you have pre-trial population mixed together, within the same facility of sentenced prisoners, that's something that, the segregation that's versus in the military, you have your pre-trial, then after they've been adjudicated and court-martialed, they go to Leavenworth, right? And that's where they serve their time.
Director Badalio, have you had any opportunity are you able, or is this bill going to allow you to provide bonuses to new recruits coming at DOC, that if they stay for at least 1 year, because many of them leave after 3 months, 2 months, they just give up, instead of, sometimes and I hear because some of my friends are correction officers who've retired, but if you can just encourage them to stay a little bit longer to hang in there, and just, it might not get as better as you think, but at least it's tolerable, and you guys,
I just want to thank the legislature, of course, and the Gov with the support that we had with the late Peter Terlahi and in his idea about a corrections reserve program, because a correction officer who informs me, and I just got informed a correction officer has plans and might be going to the Guam Police Department, but wants to be a corrections reserve officer, stay with us as a corrections reserve while they're going through their training with the Guam. And that, but it's not a total loss, because although now they're moving over to the Guam Police Department, he'll come in within 42 hours out of the month and still apply some of the skill set that he has as a corrections officer.
So have you
hopefully
been
that's
able,
a strategy.
so have you been able to provide any kind of bonuses for individuals, the new recruit coming in, if they stay at least a year, you know, hang on for a year, that they will get X amount of money?
Well, right now, nothing authorized on appropriations, but certainly we'll explore that too.
Yeah, can you please, because I know they're doing it in some other facilities in the mainland, you know, providing that bonus to have them stay, right? At least a certain amount of time, and then they get that bonus. It's going to be very helpful. So other than that, I mean, I know that our good chairman, oversight of DOC, has done such an excellent job with making sure facilities at our Department of Education, you know, is up to par, that we can't stand for this any longer, you know, to put our kids in harm's way. I think that we need to do the same thing, you know, and find some kind of way. I mean, that's why I'm thinking receivership, that he pulls that same thing, because there's no need for our officers to be put in situations like that. They're already in danger by taking care of, you know, the inmates, and especially under certain conditions. But when they're in a facility that could, you know, be dangerous to them, or it's in mold and mildew and getting sick, that's a huge issue, huge. So I look forward to, you know, keeping it going. And Senator Barnett's going to be in the next term, and I'm pretty sure even though he's no longer going to be the chairman of this DOC.
Wow, we're going there?
Yeah.
It's a little early for that,
But
Senator.
I'm pretty sure he's got the knowledge and the history behind what is needed at DOC, and he's going to stay on top of it. Like, I can bet you that. So appreciate all his hard work for that. And you know, for everyone who works at DOC, thank you. Adonkalusi tusmasi for what you do, and please extend that to your family too, allowing you to continue on to serve in this capacity to keep our island safe.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. Senator Kanata?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly appreciate you guys' time being here. I'm really much in support of both legislations. I understand that there was sentiments from the DOC director regarding some amendments, and I hope the chair takes that into consideration. I do want to minimize any legal obligations from the government or the people of Guam. On another note, on Bill 358, certainly want to ensure that you guys get a pay study. A lot of the issues that we continue to face is based on your pay, and not only on your pay, but the benefits you guys have. Our retirement plan needs to be really looked at. We need to advance the agenda, because we know that Uncle Sam has great opportunities out there that obviously poach a lot of our local talent, and it's very unfortunate that we are not able to keep up with the ongoing loss. But we do acknowledge that it is here, and it's very much an issue that we need to address. And it is my, although I did not make it this election, it is very much my goal to ensure that we get the support for you guys. And I wish the new term leaders to really get to the root of this problem, increase you guys' salary, and make your benefits better, so that we can actually retain the talent. Because also in the States, a lot of them are offering better opportunities. So obviously, if you have greener pastures elsewhere, you're going to relocate, not only for yourself, but for your families. So I encourage the new leaders to look at this issue no longer, but address it head on, and let us move our island forward and make sure that our inmates are also being taken care of. I think the situation up there is very much dire, not only for inmates, but for humanity. It is crazy what you officers are going through, but also the inmates. I understand that it's not the most popular issue for us to be funding DOC to the maximum capacity, because you did the time, you pay, you did the crime, you pay the time. But I wanted to ask the director about pretrial. Do you need legislation to address the pretrial situation? Because obviously it's been a situation for us, most especially you guys, having a lot of detainees awaiting trial. So with that impediment, what do you suggest for us to, as lawmakers, is there any policy you need to be implemented to address this situation?
Well, I would say just looking down the landscape, looking down, the next couple of years now, the legislature, the 38th Guam legislature, I'm sure that as we look at the master plan with the new, construction of the new prison that's in plan, that there may be possibly some discussions about detention facility, where that detention facility, pre-trial, where you should construct it, because currently the Ganya detention facility under the Hagana restoration plan, it's not supposed to be there, right? So, and there are been the discussions I've had, and I'm aware that there's plans for a multi-court construction, a complex for a court. In the jurisdictions in the states, court officials, it's within walking distance where the pretrial detention is. The sheriff's jail is right next, close by the court, and that would, the amount of transportation we do here, I've been discussing with the leadership here, we average 60 inmates transporting them in the morning and the afternoon back and forth between Manila and the court. Now, imagine a detention facility that's within walking distance to wherever a brand new court is at. That's within, the justices will look outside their window and they'll be reminded that that's where the pretrial is at, right? And that's a whole discussion again, because, the impact of that would be judiciary, right? And so that's the potential will be on the laps of the senators that come in the 38th Guam legislature. Senator.
Okay, thank you, and I hope that they proceed with the construction of the new facility. You guys needed a new facility yesterday. So thank you so much. Most especially thank you to you guys and your families, most especially supporting you in the back, right? You guys are in a very tough position every day and every night. So I wish you guys all the best and continue to keep up the good work. And I hope that this package comes to you guys' desk soon. Thank you so much. Take care.
Sidos Masi, Senator Kanata. Yes, Major, definitely a desperate need for a new facility, and I know that some of my colleagues here were kind of scratching our head when the governor vetoed Bill 234-37, which was introduced by Senator St. Augustine and co-sponsored by my colleagues on either side, and that bill would have put away more money for the construction of the new facility. I don't necessarily agree with Senator Taidagui about the receivership, only because that's not a freebie, okay? I mean, the receivership with the dump and other receiverships, it costs the government of Guam a significant amount of money, and I think the goal should be for us to work harder to keep away from receivership. Although I understand it's very difficult to do, I think that the population, right, as DOC, whether it's pretrial or the inmates, has been complicated by the drugs and the drug epidemic, right? And so I actually did introduce a bill early in the term that, well, I thought it was addressing the pretrial release conditions, but the bill was opposed by the judiciary. It was opposed by the public defender. Basically because, under the great Constitution, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, and so no one wants to lock up anybody who's facing charges that they haven't been convicted of yet. But my argument remains that crystal methamphetamine completely transforms individuals, especially when these individuals have been using meth for, 10 years, 20 years, and we're 30 years into this ICE epidemic. So many of these individuals who are on the pretrial release are not goody two-shoes, for lack of a better term. They've actually been convicted of previous crimes, served their sentence, been released out in the community, relapsed, and got arrested again for another crime, and maybe even served time for that. And then, we're talking about, and this is a generalization, but we're talking about really, I think, the same 1,000 to 2,000 knuckleheads who have no interest in getting clean, no interest in getting off meth, because it is one of the most addictive substances in the world. And what we're seeing on our island is this transformation from, a loving family member who maybe just tries meth one time, ends up being addicted for 10, 20 years, and that family member is no longer recognizable to their family, not just with the physical deterioration, but with the psychosis and the desperation to find that next fix. And where do most of these individuals end up, if they don't end up out here on the streets asking people for $10 so they could go get turned on to crystal meth, they end up in and out of your facility. So yeah, it's definitely a very big issue that I think you know, this legislature, we've tried to address it. We've passed, you know, stricter penalties for meth dealers, fentanyl dealers. We're trying to address the compensation for the corrections officers. We've addressed recruitment and retention with GPD in order to get more police officers on the street. But, you know, with all of that, it's so much more progress that we need to make. And I think a lot of the corners will be turned when we get the new facility up and when we solve these issues with the compensation for the corrections officers, so that we can, you know, not just build a new facility, but adequately staff it with corrections officers and other law enforcement, social workers, going to work happy, like you said, because they're going to work in a new, a nice, clean, safe facility. It kind of reminds me of the schools, you know, the situation you talked about, right? I mean, if you're saying that corrections officers are going to work in a facility that's, you know, is not even regulated by public health. I was very surprised to find out that the Department of Corrections is not a covered establishment. Public health doesn't go in there. They don't inspect the conditions that these prisoners are in. And let me tell you, you know, these prisoners committed a crime. Many of them are doing the time, but a lot of them are also have yet to be proven guilty of the charges that they're facing. And you know, we are supposed to live in a society that's compassionate enough that, you know, when you go off to prison, it's not necessarily a cruel and unusual punishment to be incarcerated, right? We're still supposed to provide a standard that, you know, and I get where Senator Taitigui is coming from, that clearly due to a whole bunch of different issues, we're just not able to provide in the government of Guam. So again, I thank you guys, very grateful for your service, especially with all of the challenges that you face. Ma'am, the Department of Administration is already obligated to, because of the Competitive Wage Act, review the social worker pay, but you know, they're also supposed to kind of do the same thing with the bill we're talking about. So I often found in this term, we're introducing laws to remind them of the law that they're supposed to be following that they're not following. So I will nudge DOA relative to the social worker compensation specific to DOC, so that they can look at that, examine that, and determine. I'm very sure they're going to determine that if you guys didn't get the initial increase.
No, we did not,
Okay.
Senator, and I want to thank you and acknowledge that the inclusion, because many times when we speak of the Department of Corrections, it's always the correction officers.
Right.
And many times the Department of Corrections social workers are left behind. So, for example, when we have March is National Social Workers Month, because we're corrections social workers and we're there, we're left out of the fold of any accolades or recognition.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to Corrections Month, we're also left out of the fold because we're not corrections officers. So I just want to kind of bring that awareness and understanding.
Thank you.
And likewise for the good Senator Telo Taitagui's opinion of as far as the federal receivership. I kind of oppose that kind of idea, because surely with the talent and intellect that we have here on our island, surely we cannot try to work together to resolve this. When I lived in Tennessee, I have worked in an agency, the Department of Children's Services, that went under federal receivership. And if you want to research the Brian A. settlement, I went through that during that time. It was not fun and easy. I am proud to have said that I took part in that, and all the way to the point that we had accreditation. And likewise, on the side of your question, good Senator St. Nicholas, with regard to salary increases versus a better prison, you know, we know that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the basic needs is food, clothing, shelter, and homeostasis. All those, as far as like with the food, yeah, we have the shelter, it does meet the basic needs. However, if we want to be better on point, then we need to try to improve those. As far as this whole idea of the basic need of homeostasis, yes, as Major Lizama had stated, we are living there in heat. And the horrible dyad of that is you have the inmates that we're trying to work with versus ourselves, and, you know, trying to work together. We're all in a heated prison that's, that has its issues, and we're trying. When the inmates, whenever there's that kind of discord, it's sad because we that work there want the best for our prisoners, those that we care for, those that are under our charge, and it's just as challenging. Their needs are our needs too, and so we hope that could be really reflected on, and decisions made to help in that regard. And thank you so much for acknowledging that. I have nothing else to say.
Mrs. Masi.
Mr. Chair, yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, just
Senator Titagui.
just to, when I mean receivership, like anything, we're not taking away the workers there. What we're doing is that this government will be forced to finally pay the workers that are at DOC the money that they deserve to keep the retention. We won't let our officers go, the employees. And secondly, the federal government will force us to pay for a new facility. That's the kind of receivership I was talking about.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm glad we cleared that up. Mrs. Masi, if there's no other testimony to be provided on this bill, we will consider the bill. Major?
I just wanted to add on that I'm in support for this bill, the bill number 368-37, the $5 million
Yeah.
that we
Hold on,
talked
we're not
about
done.
earlier before the hearing.
Yes, we're gonna do that bill now.
Yes, so with this, I mean, she's bringing up things, and everyone's bringing up about what's going on. Although we're not gonna have the modern prison built yet with the 50 million that we needed, but at least with this 5 million,
Major,
they can use
sorry,
that
dispensa. Nanga has said he's gonna do his all open, and then we're gonna allow you the opportunity to testify, and then you
Okay,
can make
sir.
your comments.
I love your
I
excitement.
thought
Yes,
we're,
very.
I thought we're
very-
already done with
Scanday.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So if there's no further testimony on, what bill is this that we're doing? 358, we'll consider it duly heard, Sidus Masi. And this time, now, I would like to recognize Senator Dwayne St. Nicholas to open on Bill number 368-37 LS, which is an act to amend subsection N7 of Section 1, Chapter 5, Public Law 37-125, relative to allocating funds to the maintenance and procurement of necessary equipment for the Department of Corrections Adult Corrections Facility and also the Hagatnya Detention Facility. Sidus Masi, Senator St. Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This measure is in an effort to support our department and all those who work there. I wanted to reiterate and thank you, Major, for your fire and your desire to help your agency. It's refreshing to see, and everybody else behind you, they're all amused by your efforts, and I thoroughly enjoy that. I was thinking, of what you were saying about happiness and all that stuff, because everybody knows me as the happiness guy. So when you work in a deplorable condition, especially in a prison, I think the law enforcement officers who work there probably feel they are also in prison. So we got to raise the level of standards, even if it is just for our workers. I was trying to figure out how to make people not want to go to prison. I was just talking with my staff here, and maybe they serve oatmeal every day, 3 times a day there. It would discourage people from wanting to go to prison. I don't know if that's a possibility.
It is possible. It's been done in the federal prison where they serve bologna every day.
Bologna?
3 a.m. bologna every day.
Every day.
The same sandwich. I said, are you for reals? And they say yes.
Yeah.
It could happen.
So, I would love to have, families, wholesome children and all of that raised here on this island so we can avoid all this prison and workers and all that. And like Senator Barnett was saying, it's a tragedy, or the stuff we're facing. And I don't know if we're going to be able to you know, we could see the light at the end of the tunnel, but, you know, this is generational. It's going to take a long time to just get over the last 30 years of this stuff. And, but this is an effort to help, raise the standards and hopefully, you know, work to make your facilities more workable, more pleasant environment for at least our workers. Thank you. I have nothing. That's my introduction, sir. And then you can. Then it will be your turn, ma'am. Thank you.
If the director doesn't mind you going first, nice. So we'll now accept testimony on Senator San Nicolas's Bill 368. Director Berdallo.
Thank you, Honorable Senator Chris Barnett, Senator Dwayne San Nicolas, Senator Talatadegui, Senator Roy Kanata. I'm providing this testimony in reference to Bill number 368-37 LS, an act to amend subsection N, subsection 7 of section 1, chapter 5, Public Law 37-125, relative to allocating funds to the maintenance and the procurement of necessary equipment for the Department of Corrections Adult Correctional Facility, ACF, and the Hagåtña Detention Facility, ADF. The employees of the Department of Corrections appreciate the support from Senator Dwayne T.D. San Nicolas, the pro for this legislation. And I want to also add all the senators that are going to co-sponsor with Senator San Nicolas this legislation that will authorize the Department of Corrections to expend the revenues with the current funding for the new prison toward necessary work projects to improve and strengthen significant facility infrastructure and invest in security system resources. We expect that with the infrastructure and security systems conditions improve, this would mitigate potential risks to both staff and inmates, demonstrate the commitment of the Department of Corrections to provide necessary basic humane conditions in the housing units for the inmate population of both convicted and pretrial that has increased steadily. With the shortage of security personnel, we would recommend to include a provision for this legislation that removes within our current budget law the requirement of a military deployment and long-term disability of DOC officers as a prerequisite to hiring DOC retired corrections officers. The changes for this provision would expand the recruitment of the security personnel to DOC for immediate assistance to secure a large and growing inmate population. Please see the amendment below for the inclusion of this bill. I just want to add personally again that, you know, coming before the legislature, every now and then I would hear Senator Joe San Agustin, my primo, say, you know, I know you're planning for the new prison, but you could tap $5 million that's already in your account. I go, but it had that restriction, it can only be used for the new prison. But with this $5 million and this change of the language there, Senator San Nicolas, again, it gives us that flexibility to tap this for a lot of the critical things I had just mentioned earlier to Senator Tadigui about that open bay and the domes, that they can move to each other and attack. There's no barriers of security in there to put sort of like what they do in the south of the border, the immigration, and that's actually, those domes were built by Customs and Immigration Federal, and on the southern border, they have actual control of movement through some security barriers. We're looking at designing that in this dome so that we can control that. That officer, if it's 1 or 2 officers, they'll feel a lot more better that they know 80 can't just, or 70 can't rush out the exit if they had to. They would be all contained there. And there are more things like what you had mentioned, Senator Tello, about the security cameras, other things that we need. I have in here even some requisitions and quotes. Our water bill is high. I remember that because even at Veterans Cemetery, when you hear your water bill's high, we have leaks, and those need to be addressed inside the building. So many things that there's a shopping list that I'm sure Major Lizama is going to share, and my staff back over here. They're all worked very hard to make sure that we tap into this $5 million for those critical things that we're going to need right now. Thank you.
Major Lizama.
I guess it's my turn,
That's
Major
it. Gun
Lozano
it.
again. Thank you so much. I apologize that I was sort of like, sounded like I was rushing it, right? But I thought we were like ending the hearing already, so.
I wouldn't do that to you, Major.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I'm in support of this bill number 368-37. due to the fact that it's needed for us to address all the current issues we have. Also, our boss is aware that priority is going to be done to fix all the, or repair or replace all the generators. That's a priority. And the AC units in all the facilities. That's about 18 buildings housing prisoners. And the other thing, of course, is the AC units, not just the housing unit, but the support section, the admin section, or what. The AC units doesn't work. So attorneys are going in there in hot, the heat. It's really hot in there, they're wearing the long sleeve and coming in there sweating. We're also handling the court hearings, the Zoom court hearings. That also is done in the heat. There's no AC unit. The correction officers are the one that's handling the court hearings in Agana and in Manila via Zoom. It's a Zoom hearing. But in those rooms, it's really hot. So, the AC units, as soon as we get this money, the ball's gonna roll. Okay, we need that money fast so we can start. And I'll tell you why. It's not just the generators, the lights, plumbing, AC unit. It's not just that. We also need the vehicles because we have prisoners and officers who are taking them out on community projects such as DOE. I went to one of the schools with them to do an assessment, the Carbolito Elementary School, and their grass was this high. But we need equipment such as bush cutters. We need like 20 bush cutters. We need a lot of equipment, we can do it, but we need the equipment. And also safety gear, such as the goggles needed, for their protection, and those, the vests, not just the vests, even those neon thing, the straps. Everything they need, safety when they do go out there, but all this year, the prisoners have been doing community projects, not just at all the schools from the north to the south, it's even the cemeteries. They were also helping with cleaning, bush cutting, cutting down trees, collecting trash, everything. There's no problem doing it, it's just that I've seen the schools, one of them, they need to remove the tin roof as well. But they need help. They do need help. So with this money, if it's possible that they could use it to purchase equipment for our workers, and not only that, it's even we need those ATV vehicles to shuttle the disabled persons, the visitors, to the compound to visit their family. And I've been also stressing out, we need those, it's like a golf cart to deliver meals to the buildings because it's very heavy. Delivering 700 plus meals in Manila, to include the water coolers. 3 times a day, there's 3 meals served to the prisoners or delivered to their housing unit. So that's why we need those vehicles to deliver it. So with this money, I'm hoping that they could purchase those vehicles as well to help us. Okay, and with those 900 some prisoners, remember the families are coming every week, not just to visit, but also they're delivering incoming, which is the hygiene, their clothing and what. So the officers have to inspect every prisoner's items that are being delivered. So you see the operation there is just a constant movement. There's just so many people going up there that also, the visitors, they also use our restroom, but how can they use our restroom if it's not working? You know what I mean? If the commodes are not working, it breaks down, you need supplies to accommodate all those visitors coming in. It's just like, you don't see it, but it does happen. We have programs, we have religious activities going on. Facilitators are going there every week. Almost every day, they're going there and seeing the prisoners to do the Bible study. Different religions who volunteer, they go up there and they meet the prisoners, you know, to conduct their religious services. That's their right. So we have to accommodate that as well, not just in Manila, but even in Agana. And that's also to keep their mind busy, because if you have prisoners that are idle, they're gonna do something crazy. Okay, they're just they're gonna do something because they're bored or come up with something. But if we have programs to keep them busy, that's also gonna help. And we still have other programs like education. We still have the drug and alcohol that are coming in also. They're conducting classes for inmates. They even still have the GED classes, right, ma'am? They still have that. So we have those happening, but at the same time, like I said, our place, the AC unit, a lot of it are not working. So when they come in there, that's their complaint, it doesn't work. And we're just trying to make sure, and thankfully no one is passing out from heat exhaustion and all of that. So I'm really grateful that you're introducing this bill. Now the only thing now is to know, when are we getting this money? When can we start spending it for, to make repairs at our facilities? That's the next question I'm asking. How soon can we get the transfer done?
Sir, well.
Is that a hard question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me, and thank you for your very, very wonderful and very candid testimony.
Yes, sir.
I don't have much time here left, and as a soldier's request, maybe a Santa's wish, maybe we can have Senator Barnett's staff, prepare all this stuff, and maybe we can get something and we can vote on it real soon. That's all I'm asking. Thank you for your testimony, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator Nicholas. Major Director, so prior to the start of well, first of all, I heard the bill expeditiously because I understand the urgent nature of it. And so I committed to Senator Nicholas before the hearing that it's my intention to jam out the committee report and get this bill onto our December session. How fitting that Senator Santa will have this on the session floor during Christmas, no less. So that's my commitment. Knock on wood, I don't foresee any challenges to making that happen. So thank you, Major. Is there any other testimony? Okay.
What else would you like to know? I'll let you know.
I know you will.
Okay, sir.
Senator Tideway.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Badallo, it sounds like these issues at DOC has been going on for quite some time. The budget bill that we went through, and I'm looking at it right now here. I don't see anything in here for any repairs or not in capital improvements, but just any repairs to DOC. Was it requested by DOC in the budget?
I have to look at the budget. I don't think anything was indicated on
repairs
on
of the
repairs,
facility?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it?
I think that some of the fundings that we get on the revolving fund that from the federal payments to us,
right?
I think some of that gets tapped into what our VRS can use toward repairs already. So
how much did you receive on that one?
I believe our ASO. Let me double check right here.
Okay.
About 70,000 we get.
That's it? Just 70,000? Is that just for the, where the federal prisoners are kept? That money is to be used for just that area where they're kept?
Oh, about $70,000 a month.
Oh, a
And it's
month?
in the revolving fund. So we can tap some of that money toward whenever we have something that deals with repairs or material supplies, you
So
know, that we need
70,000,
to
Okay. So how
to
much of
get-
this funding, of the $5 million that was appropriated to, basically, we want to get a new facility.
Yeah.
And if we keep, drawing from that
Yeah.
bank that we keep funding, we're not going to get that new facility.
Yeah,
So my concern was, this should have been requested for in the budget bill.
Yeah. This,
Separate and apart.
yeah, the $5 billion was appropriated for us for the new prison.
Exactly.
And that's why I had mentioned earlier, Senator, you know how Senator Joe San Agustin would indicate in a
Yeah,
hearing
but-
that if you guys are having some problems and challenges with your maintenance repairs, just use the $5 million there, but the language was restricted. We couldn't use that for any.
Yeah, well, he can say all he wants, but,
Yeah.
the reality is that you need, as a director, to come here and ask for that money
Yeah.
for the repairs of that and maintain the course of building that new facility.
Yeah.
It's just like the hospital we have right now. Everyone's focused on a new hospital and putting money to building it, but we have a current hospital that's in dire need. Sickness doesn't wait for people. You get an ambulance, you can't wait 5 years until hospital's built and safe to go into. So you have to continue so $70,000 a month, what is the percentage of that is used to repair your facility? Is there a certain percentage that you take out or that you're allowed to take out, or do you use the full 70,000 every month?
Well, according to Dan here,
Hi, Dan.
it goes into the general fund, but I've been given a different kind of information too, and I'll have to let me verify that, because
Yeah,
Major
appreciate it.
Uggan has that.
Yeah, let's find out
information.
where that money's going. I mean, if it's supposed to be designated for DOC,
Yeah.
and it's going into the general fund, sometimes it gets lost. I'm
Yeah.
finding that out, lately. Things by law are designated for a certain agency, but
Yeah.
it's empty, the bank account's empty, and
Yeah.
that agency never got anything. So let's look into that, okay, because we can go further in this. And we
Yeah.
want this right away,
Yeah,
right?
And Senator, most of our budget, again, every budget request, a lot of it goes into personnel costs, like every line agency.
Right.
The majority of the personnel costs for our employees.
How much did you ask for in the budget bill for capital, improvements?
I have to take a look at the budget again to
Okay,
take a look at that.
so then we know
and
that there's an
refer to that.
issue at
Yeah.
the facility. How much money is it going to cost to repair those issues? What's the total cost?
I believe we're talking about just estimates on the air cons on itself could go up to about $100,000 and stuff and all that. And
That's
air,
it?
air conditioning and generators. I
Yeah.
actually have
The listing?
a breakdown of listing.
Yeah, I
and I
think
can
we
make
need-
copies of this for
Yeah.
each and every one of you.
And I really
to see
think
the
we need
extent.
that listing, because here we are giving, open $5 million to DOC where it's supposed to be designated for building a new facility. We should not be tapping into that money. That needs to stay its course, and then we need to find funding to take care of your capital improvements. Unfortunately, you can't even tell me during the budget hearing how much you asked for in capital improvements. And out of sight, out of mind, if you're not lobbying the legislature during budget hearing for money, we don't know how much you need.
And I just want to add, Senator,
And it's
too-
not one
Yeah,
senator, by
yeah,
the way. You
yeah.
got to go to all of us, because not one senator is going to make that choice.
Yeah. I just want to add on too, some of these that are planned to be repaired too, it's even linked to the ongoing possible reimbursement we have with FEMA from malware's damages. So that might get us recover from some of the monies we spent on this immediate tap of the $5 billion. We may be able, because with FEMA, they cover a large majority of it, and 90-some%,
good.
right? And then we'll return the rest. It could be
Okay, so
reimbursable.
I'd
That
like to
helps
know
out.
how much
Yeah.
money you need. Because if we need
Yeah.
to, find another avenue and maintain that $5 million where it's supposed to be,
Yes.
we had how long have we been at this, trying to get DOC a new building? For years, and now we're going to tap into that? I mean, once you start going in that cookie jar, I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
you keep drawing and drawing and drawing from it, nothing happens. So what we need to do is stay the course,
Yeah.
find some funding for DOC now. I mean, there is a little bit of excess revenue that if you're only saying $100,000, that's very minimal. I'm sure we can find $100,000. That's why I need to know, Fred, exactly how much to make it safe, to provide the people who are, you know, the visitors, the families who come visit with a decent bathroom to go to, especially, you know, and make sure nothing's falling on their heads when,
Yeah.
for you and for the staff as well as the inmates. But we just need that number amount.
Yes, because one of the issues, again, and I had mentioned earlier, almost like my experience with the Veterans Cemetery, when I used to be director of veterans, is
I remember.
the large water bill that's accumulating right now, right? We, at Veterans Cemetery, the solution was just shut off the water to that section of the veterans so we didn't accumulate that until we can get it repaired.
Yeah.
With this situation, we can't shut off the water. And
Then
with those amount of leaks, Senator, it ranges up into
Well,
it's
another
over
thing is-
$20,000, over $30,000 worth of water bill.
Well, I think you should give DPW a call too as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Utilize
Yeah.
other government facility, you know, agencies to help you out, and that doesn't cost a procurement, you know, because you know how long procurement can go, and we're just delaying it. But I think DPW can come to the rescue and help out. We can get Waterworks to come in and try and help you guys out to find that leak at no cost and stop it right away. Has that been done?
Yeah.
Have you gone
Well-
to Waterworks to ask them, you know, GWA to help you to find the leak?
I know we've done it with, down at the Hagana Detention Facility, you know, Miguel Berdalian
Okay,
was
we need to
real
do it in
quick to do
Manila,
that, and then
okay?
also that yeah.
We need to do that, I mean, right away. You know, Fred, today's Thursday, tomorrow, make a call to, you know, to them, DPW, as well as Guam Waterworks, and have them ask them to help them, you guys, and come down right away. Let's stop the bleeding there. We need an itemized amount of how much it's going to cost on these,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
and with this list,
repairs.
with this list, it gives down, it doesn't have the amount, but it gives an idea to all the lawmakers here
Yep.
about the situation of what what we have prioritized in terms of should this language be changed to authorize us to tap into the $5 billion for this.
And also the FEMA relief that was just brought up.
Yeah.
We need to know how much is that going to be paid from your full cost. We can't just come here and just say,
Yeah.
give us this money, and then not tell us where it's going.
Yeah.
Because when we give you, I don't know about some other people, but once I give somebody money, I follow that money
Yeah.
and make sure it's spent correctly. Especially that 70,000 that's going into DOA. Fred, that's a third thing that you need to do to find out where that money is. Maybe you could have it right away and work on it, because, you know, I don't know if we're going to session in November or maybe in December, then that's way too long.
Yeah.
We can start the ball rolling right now, DPW, GSWA, DOA, on finding where that funding is. And then we need to, I'm pretty sure if it's only $100,000 to $200,000, I'm pretty sure we can find that, you know, in the excess revenue for FY24. Okay?
Okay.
So let's do it.
Yeah.
Can't wait any longer. Let's not wait. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Citos Masi, Senator Taitagui, Senator Kanata.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to clarify, why are you guys doing hearings from Zoom?
Excuse me, Senator? What?
Is there a reason why you guys are continuing to have hearings on Zoom?
Sometimes, again, like I said, depending on the status of the inmate and the time that they're doing it, you know, and arranging it with judiciary, that's why instead of transporting the individual all the way down to the court, they'll have it done via Zoom. But for that to be dependable, again, with our facilities, the connection has to be there. And again, the power situation we have at Department of Corrections is also another factor with the infrastructure and how it is, and ensuring the power disrupts, then the connection breaks off, and then you can't hold the.
Thank you for that clarification. On another note, do you have an AV specialist, or who's conducting these hearings on your behalf?
Excuse me, Senator?
An audio-visual person. Do you have someone specialized for that services being rendered there, or is it just one of the officers? or admin?
I believe it's one of the officers or something. We don't have.
Okay, maybe you should put that into your budget request for next year to have an AV person available so that you can have these services rendered correctly and that you don't have any issues. I mean, we're the legislative branch, we still have AV issues, but I think in your position, if you're gonna be continuing to have those services rendered for inmates, I think it's prudent for you to, sorry, have those services acquired for your budget as well. So make sure you have 2 people allocated for that service so that your inmates are given adequate and sufficient services, and also the agency has the ability to offer that swift, diligent service. I also wanted to clarify your community projects or outreach that you guys are doing. Is that only for halfway house inmates, or is that for everyone?
No, that's only for minimum out inmates. That's as per the law.
Okay.
They're the only ones allowed to go out into the community, which is the work credit program
And you
and
still,
work release.
but you still have difficulty trying to, navigate each inmate's allowance, right? Some of them have molestation charges. Some of them have, they cannot be within certain reach of children. So you guys cannot always go to the schools.
Correct.
Only on weekends, right? Or after hours.
For criminal sexual conduct, no, they're not minimum out.
Okay.
They're not allowed for
But
minimum
I
out.
just wanted to clarify that because you don't have always available halfway house inmates available for service, right?
For the community projects, like I said, it's only minimum out classification. The minimum in are not allowed to go out into the community.
Okay,
They just stay within our facility. That's it.
Okay.
But for community projects, the DOE school projects, the minimum out classifications are the only ones that are allowed to go out. And parolees.
Okay.
The parolees also are assisting along with parole officers. They are also there supervising. Sometimes they're there to supervise the project and assist as well.
Okay.
Also, on top of that, the equipment, the bush cutters are all personal use. They belong to chief of parole and some of the the correction officers. They have to bring their own bush cutters because the department doesn't have any equipment. So that's why this bill is going to help us, with all the community projects. I even informed our boss that, if he could check Parks and Recs or DPW or even DOE, if they have any equipment for our guys to use. It's not just our employees, but, because all those equipment are used at the adult correctional facility and the Hagåtña detention, to include water blasters. Those are the kinds of equipment that we need, to help maintain sanitation in our facilities. But also it's good for the DOE schools as well. The project, I believe it's called the SORT.
The school operations response team, we were involved in that, our parole and also our corrections officer with the minimum amount. They helped out at Price Elementary and Alahan Middle School.
That's great to hear. I think we can have more community collaborative partnerships.
They
like
also
that.
helped the Tamuning Elementary and the Carbolito Elementary School and Price Elementary, right? Are there any more schools?
Oh, yeah, those are some of the schools they did.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. Thank you guys so much for your hard work. I also wanted to clarify vendor. You have a vendor for your food services?
Yes,
so
we
it's
do.
It's not on campus. It's off campus vendor.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the 70K, I definitely want to know where that money is. I want to make sure you guys have adequate access to it. I mean, if you guys don't spend it, it goes to the general fund and then it just goes probably to nowhere because no one knows where it's going right now, right? If it's
Let me verify that because I got two information. One, that it could be in the general fund, but there's another information I got from Major, again on the revolving fund, and that's through the 70,000 per month that we get for the detainees, the federal detainees that the U.S. Marshals give us that check for.
Okay.
The DOC revolving fund.
Yeah, DOC
Okay.
revolving fund.
I just want to make sure you have access to it, and if there needs to be legislation for you guys to specifically have access to it only, then I think my colleagues should recognize that and, act on it so we can make sure you guys have that fund available. Also, do you have any tracking on FEMA right now?
With FEMA. Right now, I believe John Haddock, who's organizing some of the meetings now on what we need to do. Doris Kitchichu is our program coordinator 3, and she's the one who's ensuring that whatever FEMA will, the projects, what they will be funded for and how much we would need to we could be reimbursed from, they'll give me the breakdown of those projects and stuff for FEMA.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, thank you guys so much for your hard work and continued services. One more thing, your inmates services for social work and religious services, do you guys offer any other correctional activities for them?
Other correctional activities, we do have the recreational activities for the inmates. And of course, the pretrial detainee, they do their own exercise at the domes, just like jumping jacks or push-ups or, they do their own exercise. We also have arts and craft projects. Also, I believe the females are still doing that. They were doing the yarn, crochet. They do still do paper projects if allowed. They're authorized to have paper brought in to do those paper projects.
Thank you. That's great to hear because, a lot of times we have a lot of visitor travel, right? Or we go out for conferences. And I think it's one opportunity for you guys to maximize the government side, right? When our dignitaries go off island, they should buy from you guys and give it back to you guys so that the inmates can have some kind of revolving fund as well. That's another thing is what is it called?
The canteen?
Yes, your canteen, is that operational still?
No, sir, it hasn't been. There's no, they're supposed to have 3 bidders or supposedly procurement law for the canteen.
And no one's bid?
No.
BIBA procurement.
We got to do some kind of invitation right, sir? You should know. Yeah, so we used to have that, but now that's been shut down for a very long time.
I'll consult with Major. Again, one of the biggest, again, like I said, the hurdles and the challenges is when we have all those kind of programs available, it's really meant with the sentence adjudicated prisoners that we have, right? But when we have an overpopulation of pretrial detainees that we have to keep secure, right? And an overflow up at Manila. And some of them were really pretty much, they made the news on their escape. That disrupts the whole program of what's happening up there in Manila,
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm very much appreciative of all you guys' time here and your services. To the DOC family not here, we thank you guys for your hard work as well. Keep up the good work and take care.
Sito Smasi, Senator Kanata, for your comments.
I would like to bring up something.
Oh, yes, Major.
He did bring up a lot of good points regarding arts and craft and to open up a store, supposedly to give back to them, right? Well, that is possible, but first let's prioritize with repairing the facility first, and then we can, open up the store. That will generate some funding. That funding can be used, throw it into the DOC revolving fund so it can support the prisoners and hopefully pay other stuff, But we haven't done that. That's already a law for the prison industry program.
Right.
However, there's too many this and that, they need a secretary, they need this, they need that. I'm like, we're never going to get anywhere. So that's the reason why it didn't ever, it didn't become, it wasn't even implemented because of the fact that there's too many we need. We need someone to handle the money. We need you know.
Yeah.
Major, may I say that to top off what she's indicating with regard to the, what were you talking about? Oh, the prison industry. Is we also have in the law the prison board, which is made up of members of the community. That is one thing that we would have to look into, but that would be by appointment. So once we have that board assembled, and then that can help us to create the prison industry.
Well,
But,
it requires a board.
Yes, sir.
We have a lot of talented
So
prisoners up
that's
there.
something
so-
that, you know, we could be looked into sometime. And then also it has been one of our ideas to be able to have at least maybe collaborate with the Guam Arts and Humanities to have at least once a year put our inmate work on display.
Love that
For
idea.
a time.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do that at the museum or at Kaha.
Yeah,
So that's
so-
something we can look forward to as well.
I toured the facility when I was with KUAM and actually interviewed Mr. Dames about the RSAT program. And in that area is where you have a lot of the paper projects. And I saw big boats and a lot of cool arts and
You see
crafts, right? And I know that one thing that has impeded a lot of these prisoner programs, whether it's, you know, the religious services or the outside time, has been the severe shortage of officers combined with the explosion in the number of inmates and detainees. And I mean, I know one time we weren't even doing like the incoming, so I'm very encouraged that slowly I've heard we've re-implemented the visitation, we've got the incoming on tap, we're doing the thank you director. This is something that we talked about when you first took the helm at DOC, was the work release and the minimum out inmates being able to participate and give back to the community. My grandfather's a former warden at DOC, and I remember growing up, you would always see that, the inmates out here cleaning up, bush cutting, and whenever we drive by them, my grandma would say, "See, boy, don't go to jail if you don't want to bush cut." So I'm very encouraged that we're starting to stand up a lot of these things. And you know, the prison industry, I didn't know it was so complicated. They need a board. They probably need, you know, 5 parties to run it. But I'm just reminded of when I went to Palau, right? If you guys been to Palau, they actually have a store where you can go in and you could buy a lot of different arts and crafts that was made by the prisoners. So
Something like the one I saw at Two Lovers Point, their arts and crafts shop.
right,
I
yeah.
wanted something like that for DOC, but you know, because our facility is, you know, falling apart. We don't have we're gonna have to build a store just or something where we can have a store just for their projects and see how they can, you know, sell their arts and craft. We have even those that are into woodwork. They know how to carve wood. They made furnitures out of those crates, you know, the ones that they're getting rid of.
The pallets.
There you go,
Yeah.
the pallets. They made tables and benches, and it's still up there. It didn't break down. They fixed it up, and then they varnished it, everything. It was really nice, but, you know, those are the talents that they can
Right.
do and also help out with their arts and craft project.
We
And-
did receive a grant funding from Kaha for another woodworking project. That's
Nice.
going to begin in January to anywhere from 7 to 10 participants. So hopefully we'll be able to showcase that upon completion of that program. It's going to be in January.
It's just a matter of setting it up where, you know, it's who's gonna handle the money, where does it go, you know, stuff like that. Accountability, the bookkeeping or whatever. Right. And also, one more thing that they have a talent, they can also make like those barbecue grills, the welders, they can make kennels.
The donkey?
Yeah, the trash bins, they know how to make that.
Yeah.
But it never, I mean, you know.
So do you have like a workshop there at up in Manila where they're
We
doing
have
welding,
different
repairing
shops.
the cars and stuff?
Yeah, we have different shops. But, you know, of course, the typhoon damaged it, but it's still being, you know, they know what to do already.
But
Those guys.
these different programs and you know, options available really go a long way towards the rehabilitation
Yes.
and the corrections
Yes.
part of, you know, Not just lock them up, throw away the key, and, good luck.
Those were the penitentiary days.
Correct,
We
yeah.
throw them in, lock them up,
Right.
throw away the key. That's the penitentiary days.
Our goal
So-
is to turn out productive members of society who can rejoin society after they pay their debt to society.
But then it shifted, it changed. Now it's more like looking at them with their drug problem. Most of it is drug related or alcohol, So that one, the way I look at it, they need a rehab facility, just to treat them specifically for their addiction. Because even if you release them back out there, they're still going to want it. They're going to want their drugs. And just so that a lot of them that were consuming all those meth, a lot of them passed away. You see them in the obituary.
Yeah.
And they died at a very young age. A lot of them developed tumors from injecting all those heroin. Because they had the money, they could afford it. I don't know how, but a lot of them called us to let us know that they're dying, they got cancer, they got tumor, because they were shooting up a lot of those drugs, and lastly, I want to also thank A.G. Moylan for posting up that board of how a meth addict looks like, because that is true. Those drugs will make you look like 50 years older, like even, a 50-year-old.
Looks 100.
Yes, or even worse. I mean, like they're just going to drop. But when I look at that, I just said, yeah, it doesn't look nice, but it's showing, it's a campaign showing people this is what's going to happen. This is how you're going to look like if you're smoking all that meth. But sometimes they don't care because they just want their high. They don't care if they die. And it's sad to say a lot of those women that were in jail, most of them died because they were in and out for meth, testing positive for meth. Sad to say. And those drug dealers as well, some of them died because most of that meth, either they did federal time or local time, their health just deteriorated. But obviously they don't see that what's happening to their body. Obviously they're choosing meth over medicinal, the prescription from the doctor. You can only make two choices. Either the drugs, the illegal drugs, or the drugs prescribed from your doctor, So.
And, just to let you know, our first test case, because one of the officers spotted an inmate down in Hagana, federal, and he was displaying signs of being intoxicated or under the influence. Already the law has been signed, so that will be our first. The report's been sent up to the Office of the Attorney General's. So this will be an interesting thing to see how this comes out, and that officer was very sharp, saying, hey, something's wrong with this inmate. He started showing signs, and I got the report. We got GPD case number for it. It's up there at AG.
Nice.
And we'll see what happens. Maybe the guy might start coughing up how he got it. We did a shakedown, didn't find anything, but for sure the person popped positive methamphetamine.
Thank you, Senator Teitigui, for that jail time for that individual, potentially.
I did want to add, as far as when we talk about programs and rehabilitation, the governor's executive order that brought Guam Behavioral Health to have an annex at the facility. The wonderful thing about that, to add on to what Director Berdalio had stated, was casework and counseling. We basically provide services to those who have already been convicted, because when you look at that stance where you're still innocent until proven otherwise. So Guam Behavioral Health is there, and they're able to provide services to both our detainees and our inmate population. So what they do on the mental health side is conduct an assessment, or they're tasked to conduct an assessment to everyone within so many weeks. I believe they do theirs like 3 weeks upon their initial detention. So, usually, like I've stated, anybody that comes through our prison most definitely has some kind of diagnosis. If it's for whatever reason, mental health wise, a lot of it could be attributed to untreated trauma. As Major Lezama was stating, that many of the women who are there, or at least our female population who are there because of drug issues, The wonderful thing about Guam Behavioral Health is with their presence, they're able to address the symptoms that are bringing on that drug use and hopefully be able to provide them with the treatment that they need. Because as she's saying, we all, inherently are in that pursuit of our own happiness and well-being. If we have whatever is on our mind that is bothering us for whatever reason, we are going to want to medicate that, whether professionally or unprofessionally, whether in the streets or not on the streets. And so the horrible thing about us using illegal drugs is we don't know how much we need of it and how often, and how to talk to somebody who's going to help us therapeutically with that. So that's where we are. Hopefully we can begin to hear more about some success through Guam Behavioral Health's presence there at the facility, not only for our inmates, but also for our detainees, and hopefully to see, when we're talking about our pretrial population, whether another approach could be looked at, providing like pre-adjudicatory kind of program where they're able to receive services prior to them pleading guilty or coming before the court. And maybe one incentive would be, if they do commit and complete treatment during their detention period, that maybe the courts may consider dismissing their cases or releasing them if they're a low risk out into the community, if they're willing to receive treatment on their own and if they have the proper support system. But that, there's so many things we can look at to address the pretrial situation. That's just the casework approach. But
The drug problem here in the island, we really do need a rehab facility, because I don't see any. I only see a hospital. Do you know of any
There are.
rehab facility
There's
that
some treatment
actually?
and rehabilitation options available. But the one I hear that from people who have family members or friends struggling with addiction, the rehab facility they want is the one where you drop them off and they get locked in there until they're clean, like, that's the Betty Ford or whatever treatment option. But, in-house, mandatory, you're not coming out here until you test negative 8 times in a row or whatever. And I think that's really given the addictive nature of meth, because we do have the treatment options available, but many times, there's a waiting list because we don't have enough,
Not enough rooms.
options, right, yeah. And then, so thank you, Major. I noticed you like to talk very passionately about the challenges that the Department of Corrections is facing, and
Yes.
the meth
Especially
is
the drug problem.
very
because
serious. Yes.
Long line of law enforcement family, especially my father. When I was 16, he was a supervisor, CID supervisor on base. And that thing was drilled in my head. He goes, I don't care if you're my daughter, but if I ever catch you doing drugs, I will personally arrest you. It doesn't matter. So that was in my head. So it's not just the adults, but even the children need to be, informed and educated about
Yes.
all the drugs.
Yep. When you have a drug epidemic, there's enforcement, there's interdiction, but a lot of, the prevention, awareness, education, those are things that, I want to commend the Guam Police Department for being out in the schools. A lot of people don't agree or, are critical of the Attorney General's efforts, but just specifically with these meth billboards, I believe it's, creating awareness, and it's an uncomfortable subject, and I think we have to get uncomfortable if we're going to address some of these issues. So thank you for that. Just on the bill, before I turn to Senator Nicholas for the closing, I too was a little surprised that this wasn't included in the budget during the budget hearing. I specifically asked you, Director Berdalio, is there anything else that you need, and throw everything, even the kitchen sink, into the budget request. So just a little background on this. We actually got the communication from the Office of the Governor about this. It's a bill now, but it was previously an amendment that had been drafted, I guess, by Adelup, and they sent it down to the legislature to be included in the supplemental budget bill 355. But we received it after we had already risen out of the committee of the whole, so there wasn't an opportunity to get the amendment into the bill. But I figured if you needed it, I would introduce it as a bill, but Senator Nicholas also thought the same thing, and so it was kind of funny. We both introduced this bill I forget what morning it was, but he beat me by like 30 minutes or an hour. So I withdrew my bill because, somebody first in, first served. So very glad to support it. And the governor did send a communication that provided a little more detail about some of these areas that this money is going to go to include the renovation, the things you had mentioned, maintenance, repairs, and procurement of security system material. So, Director, I just wanted to ask about that. Given the nature of the facility up there in Manilao, do you think it's Bali? It's worth it to go and buy these security cameras and stick them in?
I believe that we need those security systems, especially in the domes when you have over 75 to 80 per each. And when we build those barriers in there, you still need to monitor them from a console at the main control center. And you need eyes on every part of that facility at Department of Corrections in Manila should something major happens. I mean, just several months ago, we were in a lockdown because a firearm was brought in, right? And I remember that Andriatico Marquez situation way back when I was a police officer. And the last thing we need is an active shooter situation in Manila. We don't have eyes and ears. We're blind because camera systems are out. And these camera systems, they depend on the connectivity, reliability, and if it happens at night, that's another element we would deal with. So we need actually the lighting too, and some of that thing so that it has that capability, especially out on a perimeter, infrared capability too of what's happening out there. And part of the security systems is going to include what we could do for our security officers to have some of that night vision, because there have been some vehicles, and lately contraband thrown over that drive by, stop, throw the contraband in, and with that night vision and everything else, especially in the darkness, some of them jump out and actually come around the perimeter of our site. So all this would really be something tapped into with this release of $5 million. I know from our regular budget,
right?
We would include, we always mention the revolving fund and a lot of our challenges and our personal costs and a lot of the bills that we owe Guam Memorial Hospital in terms of medical and all that kind of stuff. And the current maintenance that we do in our budget, we rely on that revolving fund from the feds paying. But when we're talking about some of these projects that are going to be costing so much money, the question asked by the governor with me in a meeting with her is, why don't you just don't you have the $5 million already available? No, the language is really restricted to new prison. Can't use that, So this just opens up a little bit of flexibility that could be an option too. It's an option.
Thank you. So what is your, sorry, Major, what's your anticipated cost for the security system? And then would this be housed, the monitoring be housed internally at
What
DLC?
we'll do, because I agree like what Senator Tadigwa, you need the numbers and what all this cost is going to be. We will have all that provided for you, Senator, and for Senator Tadigwa, Senator Nicholas, Senator Canatas, so you can see the total cost of this number, and it's very extensive. It may be to the point. It's also to the point if we had relied on the revolving fund, we would really be expending on some of these things right now. But it's been expended for other things that we have, and that's why
it's like
I'll provide a copy of all these work projects. And
the revolving fund might have had a revolving door, maybe, huh? So. Yeah. Hey, but, Director, I wanted to thank you because when the issue with the schools arose and specifically Price Elementary was in need of volunteers, I know I'd put the call in and asked you, hey, can we get any of the corrections officers or anybody out to help assist with Price Elementary and the other schools. So I want to thank you for not just getting a couple COs out there, but getting the work detail people out to assist at the different schools. Very, very grateful that you were able to help us accomplish the goal of getting all the schools permitted and passed, regulated by public health. And most recently, just for the viewing public, the DOC minimum out staff, along with some of your fine COs, and I believe some of the parole people were out at Tamuning Elementary as our staff was out there helping to prepare them for their public health re-inspection, and so they were able to pass that. And I just wanted to thank you and your staff, and of course the inmates who were out there. I've never seen people so happy to bush cut. You know what I mean? They're out there like, "Ooh, getting some fresh air," bush cutting timoning. So, Undunkle Sidos Masi, Director. And with that, I offer Senator St. Nicholas the opportunity to close on the bill. Senator St. Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here, Director, Major Lizama, and Ms. Therese Tayama. It's nice to see you all here. I do everything I can to help assist this through, and I hope that we do we have a successful resolution, and we get the funds out to you as needed. And I'd like to thank my colleague here, Senator Barnett, for hearing this bill expeditiously, and we'll get it through hopefully before Christmas. And thank you again one more time. Thank you, sir.
Sidos Masi, Senator St. Nicholas. Again, thank you, Director, and thank you, Ms. Tayama and Major, for coming out and providing your testimony, as well as a lot of insight. I think we had a good conversation here today. So, Sidos Masi. If there's no further questions or comments? No? Okay. This concludes today's public hearing. The committee will continue to accept written statements on today's hearing within 10 business days from today, which may be mailed to our office on the second floor of the Guam Congress Building. Guam Congress Building, 163 Chalan Santa Papa in Agatnia. You may also send your statements to malafungtion@guamlegislature.org. That's MALAFUNKSHUN@guamlegislature.org. Sidos Masi for your participation. This public hearing is hereby adjourned at 4:15 Chamorro Standard Time. Guahusi Senador Chris Malafunction Barnett. Sidos Masi está. Adios.